Alpine have said that Andretti's Formula One engine option has now expired. Alpine has said that a pre-contract agreement it had to supply customer engines to Andretti's new Formula One team has now lapsed. Andretti has been putting in place plans to enter Formula One for a while now, and as part of an original push, it had an agreement with Alpine for a partnership for power units as well as possible customer car parts. It was widely understood that this deal would act as a holding pattern for Andretti while it worked together with GM and its Cadillac brand to help develop its own power unit in the longer term. However, after the FIA announcement last week that it had accepted Andretti's entry and is now being passed on to FOM to consider a commercial deal, it has emerged that the plan for the customer Alpine Renault engines is no longer in place. Speaking to Motorsport.com, Alpine interim team principal Bruno Famin said that the situation changed earlier this year when its pre-arrangement had lapsed. "We had a pre-contract with Andretti," he said, "which has now expired, because they were supposed to be granted an F1 entry before a given date. It means right now, if we want to do something with Andretti, we need to negotiate a full-time contract. So right now, we have absolutely nothing with Andretti." Famin explained that after the option expired several months ago, there have been no further negotiations, and that there were no plans to resume discussions until it was clear with Formula One management that the Andretti entry was being approved. "Everybody knows what the situation is," added Famin. "We need something, and we need to make a decision from Formula One before resuming with Andretti." Although Andretti has linked up with GM to help support its Formula One entry, Famin said that the partnership with a rival car brand would not impact his own assessment of doing a customer engine deal in the short term. "We are still on the same line," he said. "We had preconditions for making a deal. We are still expecting these conditions to be fulfilled, but we have not changed at all our process so far." However, Famin admitted that there were time frame factors that had to be taken into account because there was a long lead deal to get a customer engine project up and running. It could mean that if a decision was not made until early on next year, it could be too late to get the engines ready for 2025. "I'm not only talking about Andretti, but we start the supply of parts for the season a very long time before," he added. "Of course, depending on what the situation will be, there are some things that we will be able to do for them, and some others that we will not. But for the time being, it is even useless to be talking about this, because let's see what we have. We don't have the starting point as of yet." While Alpine was open-minded about supplying engines to the Andretti project, it said it only agreed with other teams that the American outfit's entry to Formula One should only be approved if it can bring a proven benefit to the Grand Prix racing. "We have nothing against 11 teams being in the sport, only if it really brings added value to the business as a whole, and to Formula One in general," he said. There are a lot of teams that are not necessarily in support of the FIA approving Andretti's entry into the sport. I think Mercedes and Red Bull are not necessarily that interested in another team being brought in right now, but we'll have to wait and see what Formula One management and Liberty Media does come to an agreement, or whether they do come to an agreement with Andretti Autosport to approve their entry into Formula One. It's been a bit tumultuous so far, but we're really hoping to see that 11th team being admitted onto the sports grid.